Alright, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So today's story takes place back when I was in high school. And honestly, as a high schooler, I had a lot of secrets. From me doing the devil's tango, to me doing literally everything that I shouldn't be doing in high school. But let's be real here, as a teenager, we all tend to mess up and do the wrong things in life, which, don't get me wrong, it is true. But at the same time, it makes us get older and not repeat our mistakes. At least for some people. I remember back when I was in high school, I had one of the biggest secrets ever. And if my parents found this out, I don't know how they would react. But basically, I remember my biggest secret back in high school was losing my V-card back in grade 8. If you guys haven't seen that story, it is on the channel of how I lost my V-card. But anyways, continuing on with the story, I remember when this happened, I was going on to grade 9. And it's been a year since I told my parents what happened. And the thing is that I didn't want to tell my parents that I lost my V-card and did the devil's tango. Because that is the scariest thing you could tell your parents. But I remember one time, my dad one time picked me up from school and told me, hey, Bubba, so I was wondering, do you want to like maybe just go out for coffee instead of just going straight home? Because I don't know, your mom didn't cook dinner, so would you like to? And I remember I told him, yeah, sure. Because, you know, going on father and son dates was never really a bad thing. I remember I was basically going on a father-son date with my dad, and I'm not gonna lie, it was really good to get to talk to him, see what he's up to and everything. Even though I always see my father every day in my house, it's never the same as just going to hang out as if we were friends. But me, I did the biggest mistake ever and decided to go a little bit overboard. I remember he was talking about girls and stuff and how he used to date girls back in high school and basically tried to connect with me in like a high school level. Parents tend to try to do this so they can feel good about their kid and stuff and kind of just relate to them. But me and my father back in high school were very different. If you guys don't know, my family's Persian. So my dad grew up in a country called Iran. As for me, well, I grew up in Canada. So obviously life is very different from a different country till, well, here. And I remember he would always tell me how like things happen in high school and stuff. And me, well, I didn't really care because it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same experience as me. So I remember I ended up telling my dad, oh yeah, you know, like I've been talking to girls here and there, you know, it's pretty cool pulling chicks. And when I said pulling chicks, let's just say I got too comfortable with my father to the point where I was saying words that I should not have. For example, swearing with him. And then on top of that, saying how I did the devil's tango. And the way I mentioned it wasn't normal either. He literally asked me, yeah, so Bubba, just make sure when you're like, you know, trying to interact with a girl, always use protection. The first time is always nervousing. And I remember I told him, oh man, it wasn't that bad. It was pretty easy actually. And when I said that to him, it was the worst mistake of my life. Literally, he looked at me with eyes wide open saying, what do you mean that was easy? And then at that point, I didn't want to say anything. I was just quiet saying, oh yeah, like, you know, when I get my first time, I'll learn what to do. He looked at me and he's like, okay, interesting. Bubba, is there something you want to tell me? Not really, is what I told him. And basically from there, I remember we both ended up standing up and basically left the cafe we were in. Now, knowing I just told my dad that I lost my V-card was not easy. Him knowing that I did the devil's tango was nerve-wracking for me. Because, like, it's not common to tell your parents what you've done in high school, especially at such a young age. But in my mind, I was hoping my dad would keep it a secret between just me and him. Because I knew my dad definitely found out that I was lying about not doing it yet. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember when we got home, I instantly just ran straight to my room. I didn't want to say anything else. And I think we've all done this before. And basically, I remember my dad ended up walking into the kitchen, talking to my mom and saying, do you know Bubba has like, you know, interaction with women? And then my mom says, oh yeah, of course. Like he's a very good boy. Like people like him. He looks very charming. And then my dad says, no, like, I mean, he's done the devil's tango. My mom was angry. My mom was so mad. And reminder, I was only in high school, like literally grade 9. So her knowing this right then and there was the worst way to end up telling my mom I lost my V-card, aka doing the devil's tango. So I remember when my dad told her that in the kitchen, my mom instantly went downstairs to my room, stomping down the steps saying, Bubba, can I talk to you? Sure, is what I said as I literally just turned on my Xbox One. She looks at me and says, Bubba, we need to have a conversation about basically what you've done. I'm okay with I'd rather not, is what I told my mom. And then instantly, right after I said that, my dad comes down the stairs and said, son, I think we really do need to talk. When my dad says son or says my first name, you know it's something serious and touching he wants to talk about. So I remember I looked at them both and said, guys, I don't want to talk about this now, okay? Can we just like save it for another time? Like, please? Trying to get away from the conversation. Obviously, my parents aren't bad people. I love my parents to death. Like, I would do anything for them. So I remember basically my parents understood and basically went upstairs. But the whole time, things got really awkward. Now, I think we all know when we hold something away from our parents, things get really, really awkward in more scenarios. For example, I remember when I went up for dinner and sat on the table with all my family, literally my parents would stare me down as if I was a different person. Like, it's doing the devil's tango at a young age that bad? Like, everyone is doing it at this point. Like, literally Literally, times have changed. But honestly, they didn't get that. Anyways, I remember basically throughout the entire like 2 months of them knowing about this, they always wanted to try to pull the conversation out of me. They're like, hey, Bubba, do you want to like have a conversation? As me and my dad are literally watching Star Wars. Like, no, I'm not gonna say anything, Dad. And honestly, it went on and on and on. Non-stop, my parents would both try to interact with me until it got to the point where things got really serious. I remember one time, I basically got a text message from this girl, and I was on the family couch, literally sitting down in the living room, just vibing out. And instantly, my phone was on the coffee table that was in front of us at the time. Because what living room doesn't have a coffee table? Anyways, going on, I remember my dad ended up walking down to the living room, and he saw my phone on the coffee table, and so I got a notification from a girl. He knew this because instantly it said hot girl in my class as her contact name. By the way, I don't know how to do good contact names. Like literally, I was really bad at it back in high school. Like from all the chicks I used to talk to, I literally would label them girl number 1, girl number 2, hot girl, girl with big cherries. Like I would label them different things because it was just so much easier to know which one I was talking to, because names really confuse me. And that, let's just say, led to me being a really bad person, because looking back at it now, holy, I was really bad. But I remember going on with the story, my dad looked at my phone, saw that there was a girl texting me and said, Bubba, was this the girl you did the Devil's Tango with? Dad, no. What? Why are you trying to keep asking me about that? Is what I told him afterwards. He told me, son, we really need to discuss this. Like, I know you've been putting it off, but we need to talk about this. And honestly, I once again didn't let him. I know, it's crazy. I kept telling him no and no and no, to the point where I would even hold my ears and ignore him. My dad was enraged. He was pretty mad and pretty upset because he wanted that father-son connection like we used to have. But ever since that happened, where we went to the cafe and, you know, I kind of splurged it out by mistake, things weren't the same between us. So I remember he decided to ask me, son, do you just want to go for a coffee? I looked at my dad, and honestly, I could see in his eyes that he really wanted to talk to me, because my dad was one of the main people in the household who would always connect with me, because, you know, who doesn't really have a father figure in their life that they look up to? Because I know I looked up to my dad. So basically, I remember me and him, we ended up going out, and we sat down, we started talking. I told him how I did the Devil's Tango, and basically told him my deepest, darkest secret back when I was in high school. And honestly, at first he looked at me kind of annoyed, but then he smiled. He said, honestly, I understand, but you gotta understand, in high school, things are gonna be tricky. You gotta do things the right way. That way, you know, by the end of high school, you'll know what you're doing. Just always be safe, my son. Please. Is what he told me afterwards. At this point, I understood. He wasn't really upset with me. He just wanted to understand how. So it was for my safety. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes keeping secrets from your parents is a good thing, but sometimes it's really not. I don't know. It's a win-lose scenario. It's a 50-50% chance. But at the same time, there's still a lot of things my parents don't know. For example, most of these stories on this YouTube channel, they don't know. Well, I mean, my mom does. She watches my videos all the time. Hi, Mom. Anyways, guys, that's basically it for today's story. So make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys.